What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is March 19th, 2024, believe it or not. We are well on the way to WrestleMania. We're getting close. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Let's talk about last night's Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about so many different things today. And if we're going to do so, gonna need a sick crew with me. The new Tuesday crew, I believe this is back-to-back weeks, same crew-ish. Not exactly back-to-back weeks. I think 2 weeks ago, maybe we saw similar crew. I don't know. Either way, we've got Double J and C in the building today. First and foremost, I'm going to send this one out to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that is. To my good friend Josh Mark. What are you doing this fine? Tuesday afternoon.
I'm doing great, Clark. Appreciate it. I hope you're doing good. You know, we got another day of reviewing Raw, which is always fun. And I mean, look, we're like, 18 days away from WrestleMania. I'm in Philadelphia, about 20-ish minutes away from Lincoln Financial Field. So, you know, you put one and one together. I am just so excited to be here talking wrestling, and I'm just so excited to be a wrestling fan. It's such a good time to be a wrestling fan. WrestleMania is on the horizon. I'm pumped, and I'm ready to talk Raw.
I am too, man. I could not be more excited about it myself. And speaking of being excited, back once again. So nice. We brought him back twice. How about thrice? How about more than that? Let's talk to Jordy. Send it all the way across the pond. How are you feeling today, Jordy? Oh,
I'm good. I'm
good. That was bad. That was all bad on me. How are you now?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah,
I'm doing well.
Good. I'm glad we got through that. We got through it all together. Yeah, mate, it's good to be back. I don't know. It might be 5 times now. It might be full on Booker T 5 times. And I'm sure no signs of quitting. I'm going to keep being here Tuesdays and Saturdays as much as I can, maybe more throughout the week. But yeah, let's talk about what's important. Like you said, we're on the road to WrestleMania. I think it was 19 days they kept saying yesterday, so that would make it 18 days now. I can't actually quite believe that we're that close to WrestleMania. But yeah, here we are. Let's talk about it.
I'm excited to get into it myself. In fact, I've given up math years ago too, so I'm glad you did that one for me on the 18 days till Mania. The countdown is on. Yeah, I gave it up. It's a hard habit to kick, but that thing's been bugging me for years. Also, on a side note, despite all of our efforts and a buzzer beater on getting logged into Instagram, guess what's down? Instagram Live. So if you're over on YouTube or any of the other platforms, send us a message. Send a message to your friends that are going to be watching on Instagram and tell them to join on YouTube or Twitch or wherever else. I will try to get the Instagram up during the show and keep everyone posted on that. But we do have to get into the show today. Let's start with me and Jay Uso, the twins. It's on. I have complained a lot on this show about the lack of build for this match. We finally did something about it last night. I feel a little bit better about it. What I'm hoping for, though, is a follow-up on SmackDown. And not to be a complainer post last night's segment, but can we get more? Like we just said, 18 days till Mania. In those 18 days, I want this to be built because I think it should be the opener for one of the nights. I don't know which one, but I do think it should be the opener. It deserves it. We're looking at two guys that main evented night one last year. Jordy, I got to ask you your thoughts on the Uso rivalry. And to me, before I toss it to you, actually, I've got another question. Is it funky that this isn't as tied to the Bloodline storyline as we would expected?
Possibly. And that's something that, like you said, we are still 18 days away. So that might be something that we see more as we get closer. It might start interlinking into that kind of overarching bloodline story. But I'm kind of happy that at the end of the day, this story does stand on its own 2 feet. And yes, it's not as big as the Cody story, and I completely get that. This story is longer. This story has been in the build between these two. Like they've said in interviews, they'll have been talking about this when they were wrestling each other in the living room at probably 6 or 5 years old. And that, to me, it's an incredible thing for them to be able to take that to WrestleMania. I'm sure they'd want to main event. I'm sure they would, but with everything that's going on, I'm sure they understand just to be a part of this card together is a great thing. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of happy that the storyline isn't interlinking at the moment, because I think it is a separate story. It's a separate side mission that deserves its own gravitas and its own kind of emphasis put on it. I think I don't. Do you think it would be good if they brought Rikishi in? I don't know, like, because it's almost like I've got this image in my head that would be amazing if the three of them dancing in the ring together.
Yes.
And like handing Jimmy the glasses in the same way Rikishi did, where they were like, "Oh, I don't know if he's going to do it," but you can't really do that and then have him then come back and help the bloodline out. So like, I feel like that's just a dream that I can have to let fade away. But yeah, who knows, man? I'm very excited for this match. Very excited for this match.
I am too. The match itself, I'm so excited for, and I think that's why I felt like obligated to almost ask the question, is because it feels like such a layer of the bloodline storyline in and of itself. The way that it's been separated is in some ways frustrating to me, but I'm not disappointed to get the result of it too, right? It is a tough question answer even, right? Like it's awesome that we're getting Jimmy versus Jay, and it's a huge deal. But could we have more? I love the Rikishi suggestion. I love the idea of Rikishi being involved in this. I think that's phenomenal. I got to ask you though, Josh. Yes. Given last night, Josh, I got to ask you about it. Your thoughts on the Jay and Jimmy promo. Which night of Mania do they open, or where are they placed on the card?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the opener. It's just such a good match. Like Jordy said, just years and years in the making since they were literally children. This match has been like years in the making. So there's no better way than to start this match off the opening. It's the sun setting. It's a great atmosphere. The crowd's hot. I honestly don't see another place for this match than the opening. I feel like the ladder match will open one night. So I think it'll be maybe ladder match opens one night. Usos versus Usos open the other night. I'm not sure which one yet. And regarding the Rikishi thing, I mean, of course, the Rikishi thing would be so great, it'd be amazing. But then again, I'm just not sure where it goes from there. Like on terms of like how much I want it to happen, of course, it'd be awesome to see them dancing, and it'd be such a great WrestleMania moment, of course. But then again, like thinking realistically, I don't know where where it goes at. Where does the match go after that, or not the match, but what happens between them on the Raw after? Like, wait, is Jimmy just a face now? Like, it'd be a little confusing, but it would be great nonetheless. But now to get into the promo, last night on Raw, I thought it was an electric start to the event as a whole.
Yes.
I love Jay playing the babyface here, saying, he misses Jimmy and he wants it back, just from the punch him right in the square in the face and made for an all-time moment. And I will say this definitely reminded me a little bit of the Matt and Jeff Hardy kind of build up to their match at Mania 25. I always remember like Jeff saying Matt is twisted and confused and he's demented, and then he's like, and so am I, and then he attacks Matt.
Yep.
So that was a great moment, and that kind of, I got flashbacks watching that from last night's promo. And I just, I think the Usos are telling a story that's good enough to understand, even if we don't get as much as a build that we expected. Although I do believe we should get that build because it's Uso versus Uso. It's a very important match. So, in my opinion, for, one of the first times they're coming face to face with this match announced, it went really good. And I was obviously confused at first when Jay started with the, I miss you, and then he punched him, and then my jaw dropped, my eyes lit up. It was a great moment. I loved it. And I do believe the segment set up the beginning pieces for what should be an all-time classic. But then again, there's only 18 days left. So, you know, do you have them on SmackDown? How do you keep building this while also giving other time to the other matches on the Mania card?
I couldn't agree more. We've got a ton of awesome comments too to get to, Josh. Like this is outstanding. We've got Ignacio, our own friend Ignacio Pinales, good friend of mine, goes too many stops and starts. Should have gone with Gunther versus Jay. I can see that too. At some point, you do have to pull the trigger on Jimmy versus Jay. And I think that's where this conversation gets really, really interesting. Shad added, the two brothers need to hug it out after they fight. Yeah, of course. I think that's got to be the result. That's what we're booking towards. David added that Cody had a good promo last night. We will get into that kind of stuff. This is one I am fascinated by. And Ignacio, thank you so much, obviously, for always tuning in. You're the man. But I love this comment. Only time this storyline worked was Brett versus Owen. I have a hard time disagreeing with that. Brother versus brother has been difficult, except Kayfabe Brothers, Undertaker, Kane might be the best story ever told. And so, Ignacio, I was not trying to play you on that one, but as soon as I saw that comment, I was like, only time? If we're talking real life brothers, yes. But if we're talking kayfabe brothers, you gotta throw in Undertaker and Kane. That was a 25 plus year storyline. We've got another awesome comment over here on Instagram from Acid_Wolfman, which is if Jimmy loses, he leaves the bloodline, but if Jay loses, he rejoins. I'd be all over that stipulation wise. Also, I just saw Gavin Witzer_PGA just joined. Monster shout out. That's a good friend of mine. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, that's an interesting idea there for me. I think that's kind of where I was going when I initially started the segment. Last night was excellent. It was awesome. And I couldn't be more excited for Jay and Jimmy. I want to play into some of the really, really heartstring type stuff, not just the older brother twin thing. We've gotten that so far, but how about the fact that we've got one that's rated one thing in 2K and another that's rated another? And Jimmy hasn't brought that up yet. Why is everyone overlooking me? What's wrong with me? By comparison, I am the older brother. I was the one voted most likely to be successful, not Jay. And we're identical twins.
That might be why, Clark, to be honest, like Ignacio said in the comments there, that the only way the storyline worked was Brett and Owen. It is because kind of when booking this storyline, you just rest on the fact that they're brothers. So you feel like you maybe, I don't need to give them the same way that you need to give them the time to build up this feud where they actually dislike each other, where it actually makes sense for them to dislike each other. Because as soon as you know that two people are brothers, everyone knows that sibling rivalry is a thing. So all you have to do is have them as a tag team. One starts getting jealous of the other, and you've got yourself a match, haven't you? Like so maybe that is why maybe creatively they don't throw the same kind of effort at it as they would when it's just two random people who you have to build that history between before you start having the feud.
I totally, that is a great point. It's a different deal because it is the sibling rivalry, right? Like storytelling wise, it makes a ton of sense. We've got a couple more comments and I will get to the one that you just laughed at, by the way. Sonny Dalton and Sandy went too fast. This Jay should have mentioned why he's always messing with him. And then he also added, and Jay should have never said he misses him over on Instagram. That I agree with. As much as we're trying to make him the baby face, I agree with. Now we got to go over to YouTube for some comments. We've got This Is Awesome from David Maj. I love that. Undertaker and Kane are not related. Come on, Shad. What? You don't watch the show. Kayfabe, they are. They're brothers. I'm kidding. You watch the show, Shad. I know that. But come on, dude. My point is, they're supposed to be brothers. It is
it's still a sibling rivalry, isn't it? They still build it as a sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
The Straight Up Wrestling Show added, I'm not into that brother versus brother thing, but I understand why a lot of fans would want to see it. Hopefully they reunite in the near future because they're better together. I agree with that on the tag team wise. Shad added about the 2K ratings that game developers are trash. LOL. Jordy added, he added that Jordy stole the Rock shirt. Mr. Fly Guy here. I love that. And then Coach 23 added they'll reunite near the end of their careers. I think there's a lot to unpack there. I look at this though I'm gonna go back to the straight up wrestling show comment here. I'm not that into brother versus brother, but I understand why a lot of fans would want to see it. That's kind of how I felt about father versus son with Dom and Ray last year. And that may just be like I thought it was weird. We're all rooting for the dad to beat up his kid.
Yeah.
Like that one didn't add up to me in my mind. Suspend disbelief, totally. I get it, right? But like, is that really what we want to see or whatever? Don't we want to see the child succeed? It's right and overcome some of those things. Relatability wise, that was a more difficult one, I think, than it is Jimmy, the twin versus twin thing. To me, this seems like something that could be booked, especially with the bloodline story, a little bit like, if you're an MMA fan, Nate versus Nick Diaz. Something like that, right? Where it's for fun, but it's for serious because of the sibling rivalry, right? But at the end of the day, if we're worried about that part of the storytelling, I still totally do like the idea, though, that they're wrestling, and I think it should open the show. I think they've earned that given the main event match that they put on and their contributions to both main events at last WrestleMania this year need to lead to a stronger storyline as far as their rivalry, but I'll take what I can get is, I guess, the way that I would leave this one. We do have to move on though to our next segment because we got a bunch to talk about today. We've got do it yourself, DIY, as I like to call them. Well, everyone calls them DIY. I call them do it yourself. Although, is it hashtag do it yourself now?
Apparently.
That's starting to get goofier and goofier by the minute versus the Creed brothers, Awesome Truth, and Indus Share. Big old tag match. DIY goes over with a roll up on Julius Creed. They're in the match at Mania. I'm not so sure. What in the world do we do with the tag division, Markowitz? Josh, what do we do?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't think the roll up was the best idea, to be honest. I love the match. When you're displaying the strength of Creed so much, I don't think roll up is the best idea for a match where you just displayed so much strength from Creed and then he just rolls him up and wins. But I enjoyed the match, and in terms of the decision, it's tough. And I see everyone on, Twitter back and forth talking about who they thought, people thought the Creed should have won. People thought DIY should have won. It's tough. You got Triple H booking it. Triple H loves DIY, of course. They're like his children. You spend a lot of time with them in NXT. But then you also got the Creeds. I know I saw Ben's opinion on this a couple minutes before the show. He thought the Creed should have won, and it really could have went either way. My opinion, I think probably the matches just should have been different, so then they both could have been on the card maybe. But then again, you got a bunch of teams that deserve it. So end of the day, one team's got to take the fall, and DIY has been doing this for a while. The Creed still got a lot of time left, so I guess we'll see how it goes. But I enjoyed the match overall.
I thought the tag match was outstanding too. I agree. The match itself was not an issue for me. It's the booking of the tag division period here, right? We spend a lot of time on the show complaining about divisions, but it's not fair to so many great tag teams. Shad added that he thought it was the best tag match of 2024 so far.
It was given main event time, man. It honestly,
it was.
like that match really just felt it. Like I think it spanned like 3 ad breaks or something. Like it just kept taking an ad break, and we're coming back, and we were still in that fight. And I don't know why they give him that much time. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. And yeah, like I say, I'm happy about Awesome Truth going through. I think they're fun. I'm happy that they're gonna get to Mania. And not massively invested. I just think maybe they could have swapped. And yeah, very much echoing what Josh said there. It's just with the tournament tree setting up towards Mania, maybe just reshuffle that tree so that DIY and Creeds could both get there. But just because I think they'll both put on they have something to offer to that big 6-man ladder match. I feel like the Creeds could have done some spots, and DIY obviously will have some kind of spot going on with the Judgment Day, but probably something with DIY as well. It's gonna be a fun match, yeah. And I think what my feelings come from wanting the Creed brothers to be a part of that fun. I think that's all it is. I don't think I've got no bad blood towards DIY, no bad blood towards anyone that's made it in. I just feel like they would really have had something to offer to that match. Is all. So just a little thing.
100%. Yeah, it's a funky. I think the tag division as a whole is funky right now. It's just like it's funny because the logical solution that a lot of people have presented is, of course, like, oh, just split them again. No, like, you have to develop a tag division, and there's really good tags. As soon as we built them, such as Gable and Otis, they're no longer tagging. That Gable's now in the Intercontinental title picture. And there's a lot like the Creeds we need to keep in as a tag team, a legit tag team, and they need to be protected. I think that's as important as anything. With that, though, we do need to talk about a few other subjects. Let's talk next about Next Level. Right? I mean, let's talk Next Level. Because I can't find the ad read graphic part. Nope, I just found it. We're good. So if you've ever been worried about it, guys, sorry, I'm producing and hosting. That is on nobody but me. But here's the deal here. If you were thinking like, hey, I can't find any of the stuff that I want to look at, I'm having a hard time finding like the articles and the work. All links in one place. Go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic. See all of our content across all of our platforms, linked all in one place. Makes it easy. Not only that, there is still a winner and still time to enter the contest. You can still get tickets to WrestleMania. Enter it. The steps are on the website. It's real easy. Not only that, just download the app. Watch more of our stuff. We're pretty fun sometimes. You never know. It could be great. Speaking of fun, though, let's talk about Cody, and Paul Heyman. Tie clip versus no tie clip, but it's suit on suit crime as far as I'm concerned. Josh, I got to ask you first. We're all going to talk about this one. Cody and Heyman, shots fired.
Yeah. For starters, I want to say I'm happy. Last night kind of felt like baby steps away from the PG era, and that made me happy. Obviously, I don't think we're just gonna end up into a new Attitude Era, because that's a whole nother level, but maybe a new and modified version. We got some references, we got some curse words, so and they didn't blur it, so that was definitely something I liked about this. It just makes it more authentic. It makes everything sound better. It makes me, and I feel like most people, more intrigued in the story, because that's how fights happen. It's aggression. It's real, and it felt real. So that was definitely a big thing that I picked up from the promo itself. But here, I guess with the actual promo itself, it felt like a real authentic wrestling promo, and that's what I loved about it. There was no fun tricks with the lighting. There wasn't a PowerPoint presentation, about like a whole family tree or whatever The Rock was doing. It was just Cody Rhodes in the ring with the microphone and just taking all of the anger that he's collected over the past few months from all of the shenanigans that have happened between him and The Rock and Reigns and everyone else in the bloodline. And the setup, which is very simple, but I think that's what allowed Cody to focus on what he was actually saying and pretty much displaying his anger and how he feels. And I think it was refreshing to see that kind of like unfiltered violence and authenticity from Cody. And it just felt good to hear, I guess, an authentic wrestling promo for once. I feel like we get too much, background stuff, lighting, whatever. Look at the screen, look at that. It felt real. He was looking eyes in the camera. It really, really elevated the setup for this Cody and Roman Reigns match and the tag team match night one. So as always, Cody delivered on the promo and hyped up what is pretty much already one of the most anticipated matches in the history of our sport. That's how I saw it.
I like it. I hear you. I still don't like the tie clip, but everything else about it, I really like. It's the way that I look at it. I mean, but why do you need the tie clip? I don't understand it. I've never. What's the point?
I think Cody did more with a microphone than The Rock did with a band, personally.
Ooh.
And I just think, Josh, what you said, it was the nail on the head. It was strip back all of this literal song and dance, and kind of stop dressing it all up and make us believe that these two men are angry at each other. And Cody, like you said, Josh, just stared down the mic and said how he felt. And yeah, it hit home. It was good. It was such a solid promo. It did everything it needed to do. It built anticipation and made me excited again, which is something that I'm sure we've all been waiting for, not just me. The thought of it actually being Roman and Cody on Friday on SmackDown, because that is something that I think we need so much, because there's been so many different people coming in and going, and The Rock and Seth, and it was on stage at the big promo event for WrestleMania. And I just want to see them two in a ring speak to each other like we did last year on the build, because after I saw that, when Reigns did his little Dusty impression last year and stuff like that, and that little segment between them two was everything that I needed to get me as excited as I was to watch it at Mania. So I'm very excited to see that again.
I am too, but I agree with you. I actually want to see him do it face to face with Roman Reigns. That, I think, is the one stone that needs to be turned over on the way to Mania from here on out. That has to happen. He needs to look Roman dead in the eye and tell him he's going to beat him. Mm-hmm. And not say why. It's not that, it's a part of the story, but don't make it even over the top about the story. Tell him, here's the deal. All of this that's happened, you know how passionate I am about finishing this story. So you stacked the deck against me. You had to stack the deck against me. You had to make things more difficult. You had to have us work both nights. This is your fault because you're afraid of me. Something to that effect. That version of Cody Rhodes last night against Paul Heyman, I've been begging for it for a year. We've got so many great comments, Sonny and Sandy, saying that they blew the doors off the PG era. Why'd it take so long?
Yeah.
And then even over here on Coach 23 added on YouTube, the Cody promo was a slap to the news that wrestlers resent Rock for too much cursing, plus the complaint of Cody being dramatic. Stop it. They're going to fight at the end. Not you, Coach 23, but I mean everyone that has that thought.
Yeah.
I understand that wrestling needs to market to multiple audiences, and kids of a certain age shouldn't see some cursing. This is not the end of the world. A few curse words being dropped in a promo to present passion. That is not what this is. And that's not what Coach 23 was saying, or Josh, or Jordy, or me, or anyone. What this is true, real passion. You have the best tellable story in all of wrestling, which is Cody Rhodes redeeming his father for being robbed at Madison Square Garden in 1977 or 1978. Sorry if I got the year wrong. I was rolling there, though, so I'm going to keep going. And I'm just saying it's the best one to be told. Last night, we saw that passion on screen. Nobody better to bring that out of somebody than Paul Heyman. Mm-hmm. Not in the world, to have him on the opposite side. But at the same time, man, if we can just get one more of those to set up Roman, I might even flip on my whole, I still think Roman cuts him in half. But that's not the point. We'll talk about that one later. Let's talk about Sami Zayn and Gunther. Intercontinental title picture. This is a big one. This is a huge one. Gable involved from start to finish. We see Gable backstage. Gable mentioned in the promo. Clark Taylor is sitting here like Sami Zayn released the documentary. Either way, I love it. I want more for Sami, though. Sami's so darn good. Sami's, I don't think, going to win this match, and I don't know that it matters. But build-wise, I did think that they did a good job last night. Jordy, I want to know where you're at when it comes to this whole rivalry, the Gable involvement, all of it. We already have the three-way for the U.S. title. Seems like logical to make it the same on the IC side.
Yeah, from last night though, I don't know. It seems like they're putting Gable in this kind of coach role. Well, I know that sounds weird because like he's Coach Gable, obviously that is his role. But the way that he approached Sami and said you can't beat him, and Sami then after the contract signing ran in and chased him and was like, "What do you mean? Why can't I beat him?" It gave me this vibe that over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a montage with Gable training Sami on how he can beat Gunther. And that is, it's just weird because Gable wanted to be in that spot. And it not necessarily is going to go that way. And I mentioned this in our group chat, you guys probably heard earlier, they seem to be approaching it in a very Rocky Balboa sense with Sami and Gunther, specifically Rocky 4. With obviously Ivan Drago, you've got Gunther, this absolute beast from Europe who is just a different breed. And I'm pretty sure the direct quote is said to Rocky in Rocky 4 of "you can't beat him." So I've obviously Philadelphia is not a bad place to tell this story, but I think I agree with you, Clark. I don't know if they'll go for a triple threat. I actually think they might let Sami lose. And then Gable's story continues of like being the coach. And I actually don't know. Maybe in this Rocky 4 storyline, Sami's going to be Apollo and he's just going to get chopped down. And then Gable's going to be like, "Oh dear, I need to really, really train to be able to beat him." I actually don't know. I'm excited to see the match because Gunther's incredible. Sami's fantastic. But yeah, it's all just been quite a weird build up, this one. And I'm at the end of the day, I'm glad they're both going to get the flowers on the main stage. I am still sad for Gable, just not kayfabe, not storyline. Just I think that this may have been Gable's lightning in a bottle moment, and I don't know if that's going to come back round to somebody who's 38 years old. So, but that is what it is. I'm still excited to see where Gunther and Sami go.
Yeah, same. And you made so many really good points there too. It's interesting. I want to highlight a comment, and Coach 23 is a good friend of the show and the man. So I'm not trying to call you out on this, but I do have to say something that's just fascinating here. He said, "Still wishing that Sami wins the IC title and KO wins the US title. Have a moment at Mania a la Eddie Guerrero and Redacted at WrestleMania 20. Yes, we all know who Redacted is. And I love that. That was hilarious. Coach 23, but here's what I'll say. What does that tell you about the tag team titles? That was supposed to be the moment at the main event last year, night one, holding them up in front of everyone. What does that tell you about the current tag team division? That now we're like, well, let's give them the moment with the US and IC. And Coach 23, because he's one of the biggest, best wrestling fans I know, most well-versed, knowledgeable, and he's sitting here and going like, would love to see that moment, right? And like, to me, it's like, why do we need it again? I thought that's what we got, and we didn't build upon it.
I just don't know if they're going to strip Gunther before they get to Berlin.
To me, it's more of a nothing happened in the last year to capitalize on Sami and Kevin being at the height.
No, bro, Sami should be world title. If you actually go back and you watch, right, Sami's promos throughout this year were saying, "I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a world champion." He came back at the Royal Rumble, and then all of a sudden, it was, "I'm going to be a champion."
Yes.
So at that moment, I was like, "All right, okay."
And it's fascinating because it feels so start-stop.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't exactly bang on the Rumble, but I think it was obviously when Punk got injured, because it looked like Drew and Sammy were headed for a feud, right? But then things pivoted, things shifted, and this is obviously where we've ended up. But yeah, he should be, as much as I want to see that belt on him, and the fact winning it off Gunther is an elevated position. Winning that belt off Gunther is so much more stature than winning the US one off Logan Paul right now. It's almost it's not main card, but it's almost at that level where when Gunther drops that belt, that is a potential Mania moment. But I just don't think it's gonna be yet.
I don't think it's at Mania. I think he's going to
Because
carry it.
what then? What then? I don't know. When you put, so once that belt has left Gunther's waist and Sammy is the Intercontinental Champion, which he's already been, I believe.
It's not the Intercontinental title that it's been for 2 years
then the
anymore,
mid-card
right?
title again.
No.
It's then it goes from where Gunther put it up here, and it just goes straight back. You've got a reign of 3 days, right? So what? It's a mid-card title. So I don't know. Use someone who needs that push. Don't use Sammy for that. Put him in the world title picture.
Okay. Speaking of the world title picture, though, let's talk the world title picture really quickly. Let's talk about the Rollins and McIntyre promo. Drew McIntyre is a savage, and I love it. I love it. Seth working double duty is not doing that much for me. And that may just be a personal opinion, but it's just not doing as much for me as I expected. Josh, I got to ask you your thoughts on the Seth and McIntyre promo headed in, because they're not both working double duty, but Seth is.
Duty.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you why it's not working for me. It's because, the one thing, I don't want to see happen is them start to focus less on this Seth and Drew match and more on the tag team match. And I get it. I mean, we're talking about the biggest tag team match in wrestling history, but you also have a World Heavyweight Championship match to focus on. And I am very happy that they focused on that championship match for this promo, because it seems like they've kind of just been fading away from the Rollins McIntyre story. And it's just kind of like Drew's like, what do I do now? So I agree with you. The double duty is not doing much for me. And I was happy with how the promo went. I think that we kind of saw Rollins drop like the gimmicky mic work and get serious as he played mind games with Drew again. And I feel like this promo was exactly what was needed with, weeks still remaining in the build to the match. I think Rollins talked a lot about, he's best under the lights. And he had the whole spotlight junkie thing, which the crowd ate up. And I like that too. I mean, WrestleMania is all about being great under the spotlight. And if he says he's great under the spotlight, then, he's setting up a challenge for himself, and we'll see if he'll succeed. But, I think it was a good promo. However, I think we need a bit more. And what I mean by that is a bit more aggression. I want to see them fight. I want to see a whole bunch of security come out and separate them at two different corners, and because I know both of those wrestlers have that anger in them. I just want to see that. That will take that build from here to here fast. And again, just more CM Punk references too, like just to talk about, we have Punk going to be at Mania. Could he be a special guest referee? Could he be a commentator? Could he be the host and make a stipulation? I don't know what's going to happen, but overall, I enjoyed the promo. It was a good build. I just think it needs to get elevated a little more to really advance the story.
I agree. It's something about, like, it's almost political at this point, the way the Mania build is gone. And like, we have all these comments about, like, right? It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
I've never seen it be so revolved around 4 people that are in separate spots. They're doing different things.
Right.
All 4 are doing not just the one storyline, but both. And there's like, it's not a spider web that connects. It's a spider web that goes outwards. It's bizarre to me. Now let's talk about, though, our final topic of the evening, afternoon, depends on where you are. It could be morning, based on time change. Let's talk about the man, Becky Lynch, and let's talk about Nia Jax, and then the Ripley stare down that followed. If we're going to have a wrestling match between Nia Jax and Becky Lynch after all these years, the broken nose, all of the things that we've seen when it comes to Becky, why not just have them beat each other so bad somebody just has to stand up to win?
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. I loved it. Like they beat each other down. It was an awesome wrestling match. It made me more excited for Ripley Becky. It makes me more excited for Nia Jax. Like Nia Jax, say what you will about her, was outstanding in this match last night. She's looked great since she's returned to the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Jordy, I've got to ask you your thoughts on it. And then, is there a shot that somehow this tag match we've spent plenty of time on this show discussing does not main event night one, and it's this match, Ripley and Lynch, that main events night one? Is there any chance?
No.
I know.
I think I wish maybe they could, whether they could or whether they should be. I don't think it will. I think what they're almost billing as Infinity War is gonna main event night one, and if anything, I think it should probably be Bayley because she won the Women's Royal Rumble, and if that doesn't guarantee you at least one main event, I don't know what does. But anyway, that's a different story. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Nia's been great, not just last night in this match, in this whole feud, in this whole build up. Every time I've seen her go against Liv, go against Becky, she's been great, man. I want to see more of her, which isn't something I could say that I was saying last time she was in the WWE. Interesting to see whether Liv will come into it at all. But yeah, it like Becky is, and I know Shad, if you're there, you're going to agree. I think she is the best women's wrestler in the world. I love watching her, no matter who she's against. I just love watching her, and I think she's almost got that kind of Mick Foley quality about her where she just looks scrappy. It's not always the most polished wrestling match in the world. It's not always the technique isn't always like perfect, but it just looks like a real fight. When Becky's involved, it always seems to just look like a real fight, and I love that about her. And yeah, I'm excited to see this match, man. When Rhea came out at the end last night, look, I'm an engaged man, but that woman just seems to look better every time I see her. Like, she came out with a belt and she was stood across from Becky, and obviously Becky looked like she'd just done 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. But yeah, man, that aesthetic of Rhea stood with the belt or towering over Becky, and Becky all kind of scrappy and bloodied up. That aesthetic, that shot is what this match is to me. It's somebody that's been towering over this women's division, but you're going against in unstoppable force meets an immovable object kind of situation, and I'm very excited for it.
That's where I think we could build this match even further with. I mean, look, she hasn't beat the man, not Becky Lynch, but the man. Right? You got to beat the man to be the man. Shout out, woo, Ric Flair. But at the same time, like, that's where Ripley, because I asked the question about, and I am in agreement on, no, there's not a chance. But there should be. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. And it goes back to kind of the points we brought up when it comes to this entire storyline with the bloodline taking up 2 nights. This audible that was called when Cody Rhodes took over. This is not Bryan Danielson at 30. We are a decade wiser. All of us, right? Even if you weren't watching then, we are all a decade wiser. And it's, as much as the fans want the Cody thing, I want it. I want it for that. But what we've been given is the 4 most marketable stars shoved in our face over and over. And is the work great? Yes, it is. But how does it make the rest of the work look? Not so good.
I think on the night, though, I think it's going to be one of them. We could be potentially looking at a WrestleMania 17 situation where everyone wants to go out there and put on the best match of the night. And because of that, we're going to see a Mania for the ages. Because like we've said, Becky and Rhea could probably main event a Mania. They're probably not going to. Seth and Drew could probably main event a Mania, and they're not. Like all these cards that could be a main event, but they're not. Jimmy and Jay could probably main event, and they're not because of how stacked the card is. So that's. But I still. That being said, I still feel like Bayley should be main event in night one.
I think Bayley should too. I think Bayley deserves it. I think Bayley's WrestleMania record, being what it is egregious.
Yeah, let
A
the
lot
tag
of that
match
has to
open.
do with timing.
Yeah, give them as
But-
max amount of time that you can. Get
Yeah.
them to open night one and close night two, so they have a max amount of rest in between.
Yes.
Like
That
Yeah.
would make the most sense to me. Start with the tag match. Although, how do you follow that night one? So here's another thing. We've only got like basically a minute 30 left. So quick answers here before I have to say. But this is really funny. I don't know about you guys, but it hasn't been that long since they started the 2-night Mania thing. I've never felt like night 2 fully outdid night 1.
No.
Like not even once.
no.
It has
No.
yet to happen.
I think last year on the whole, one was better.
If you end up with everyone having to follow that tag match, we might be in that situation for the first time. And I wonder if this is what it's all about from a creative standpoint. Not to be throwing out conspiracy theories as I end the show, because I know Josh and Jordy probably have more to say about that. But that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. It's been awesome. If you have no Tuesday night plans, you do now, off the air immediately following NXT. Me, Shad, Drizzy, back to normal, 7:15 Pacific. That's in the middle of the night in the UK. That's 10:15 on the East Coast, 9:15 Central. That makes it 8:15 Mountain. And of course, 4:15 in Hawaii. Also, check out the daily broadcast every single day. That's usually noon Pacific, but for the next few weeks, it's at 1 Pacific, 4 East. You guys can do the math on that one. That's not about me. That one's about you. Also, if you haven't checked out all of our other shows, the table, me and Ben just took it to the table. We took it through the tables. It was outstanding. It was an awesome argument. Go check that one out. Shout out everybody on WR, and everybody have an awesome Tuesday. Talk to everyone tonight in just a few hours.